Joining us now to talk AI, race, and politics, tech attorney Bari Williams. Bari, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here. So in recent months, the topics of AI, race, and sort of biased outcomes have popped up a few times. And it's interesting because it's not something that people were really talking about much before that. When it comes to tech and AI and possible discrimination or unfair outcomes, what are some of the concerns that you have?
Well, first I would start by, every attorney will tell you that definitions matter, right? Diction matters. So what is AI? And the simplest way to explain it is it's essentially opinions baked in code. And the way that bias can get into that is the algorithms that are the output, it's only as good as the information that you're feeding it. And secondary to that, who is selecting the information that it's being fed? Mm-hmm. And so if you look at it statistically, the majority of people who are working on AI are, I don't want to generalize them, but they're bros, right? Like they're 25, 26-year-old straight able-bodied white dudes. Mm-hmm. And so you're making something for a global population, but you're doing it with people who have a very, very small kind of lens and limited worldview.
So I think it was probably about 2 months ago that AOC brought up how there's this form of discrimination caused by AI, and people were like, what are you talking about? This is another gaffe from her. So what are some examples? Like for people who don't necessarily understand how this can manifest in particular cases, what are some ways that we're already seeing this effect?
So there's an interesting kind of a facial recognition. So for people that don't understand, AI is used in pretty much everything now. It is determining what ads you see, what jobs you can see, certain types of housing opportunities that may be available to you. It determines your credit worthiness. Like there are tons of outcomes that people are not thinking about in this particular way. But one interesting misstep, Amazon's facial recognition technology last summer, it was reported that they incorrectly matched 28 congresspeople with mugshots, and of course they were 28 black people. So, that's Exhibit A, right? Is that imagine you're a congressperson and you're just minding your business walking through Dulles, and Dulles does use facial recognition technology. Mm-hmm. It has caught 3 people who overstayed visas and used fake passports that way. Interestingly, they were all African citizens. But if you're a congressperson and you're catching a flight back to your home district and you're in Dulles and you've already been mismatched with facial recognition technology, you could be stopped and detained because someone thinks that you're someone else. Yeah. So that's one reason. The second piece is if you're thinking about it from a predictive policing standpoint, that's also using historical data. And we know that communities of color, particularly black and brown communities and poor communities, even rural communities, are over-policed. And so if you are using that historical data in order to inform where you should send more cops in your town, well, you're also now not accounting for gentrification, which is, of course, people who left during white flight to go to the suburbs. All of their kids are now moving back to cities. So you're sending police to the wrong places.
And you've talked before about how the stakes have never been higher when it comes to this area. And it makes me think of a story I saw not long ago, actually, where I forget exactly what the company was, but it was a automated driving set of software for a car that apparently had trouble seeing black skin and recognizing that it's a human. Right. So you could literally be talking about life and death consequences of these biases.
Yeah, I could just be minding my business, walking down the street, trying to cross the street, and some autonomous vehicle doesn't see me and just plows me over. Like that's completely plausible. It's also the same reason why you had Google software used facial recognition technology to equate black people that were using it with gorillas. And it's just not, it's not cool. It's one of those things where you have to make sure that all of those voices are at the table before you ship a product. It's fine, like products are gonna go through multiple iterations. You're gonna, stop, start, try something, doesn't work, back to the drawing board. But you should not allow a product to be shipped and used by the public when you know that it's faulty or that there are loopholes, or if you know that you haven't fully tested it to see how does this work for people that are differently abled? How does this work if we utilize it on dark skin? How does this work, if we use it on natural hair? Like, will it be able to tell the difference when I change my hair that I'm the same person? So it's thinking through all of those tests. And if you're not actually testing those things before you ship a product, then just be fully prepared to know your product is faulty.
So Bari, this is Brad, by the way. Question is, have these companies acknowledged that there are shortcomings in their programming and their AI algorithms? And are they taking steps to acknowledge it publicly? And have they made any changes or signaled that they will make any changes to improve this situation in the future?
Yeah, the good news is the answer to all of those things is yes. But I would probably put an asterisk next to that, because we've all heard from tech companies, especially over the last 2 years, that they're all going to make these modifications and these changes, right? And we haven't necessarily seen that yet. So whether that's you're looking at, using AI in order to combat hate speech on platforms, or if you're using it, in a sensor so that you can dispense hand soap in a bathroom, until those changes are actually made, and also who is determining what those changes should be, and how are you thinking through those things, we really are not going to see a ton of gains. You may see marginal improvements, but we're not going to see a critical mass of improvement.
One last question for me. So we've talked about what corporations can possibly do, generally voluntarily. In terms of government action, either in terms of regulations, legislation, things like that, what could be done to improve the situation?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things that would be really interesting. I mean, for one, if you just think about it from a facial recognition standpoint, imagine now that you're going to Dulles and you're easily recognizable, like that recognition, plus all of the other data that other portals have about you, that Dulles sensor can tell whether you're married, single, broke, employed, everything else. And the problem is if that kind of information and that ability to identify you is then put into the wrong hands. Like we've already seen subversion of democracy, right? When tech is not legislated. So the first thing I would do is that there should be an actual accounting and transparency in terms of where are people who are coding these algorithms, where are they getting the data? Who is double checking those data sets? And have you beta tested and actually tested the product internally with different employee bases or groups? Now that's a whole different bag, because we know that tech companies have issues around diverse employment. Well, that's where you can use consultants. You can use people from marginalized communities. You can use people that are differently abled. You can use LGBTQ folks. All of these people should be seeing and testing a product before it is shipped. And that's step one. Step two is transparency in terms of where you're getting the data that you're feeding it and how you're vetting that data. Those are the main two things that people should really, really focus on.
Well, those seem like very reasonable expectations, and perhaps with a change in government in the near future, we might see a little bit more discussion like that in Washington, D.C.
Let's hope. Let's hope.
Tech attorney Bari Williams, thank you for joining us on the Damage Report.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching this clip from the Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.